everybody, it's Sam here. Thank you for watching. So I thought I would do a gift box tutorial today. It's been some time since I've done a gift box, and it's been a while since I've done a gift box with 10x tea cakes. So I thought I would do this Christmas one. So I was looking through the Christmas craft supplies that I purchased. It was like the beginning of the year, so it must have been like the January sales, and I said I'd use them in the Christmas in July. So I'll show you the paper pads in a moment that I've used for this one. I've just looked through my tutorials and just altered a few different ones really to create this style, but what I like is the way that I've done the fastening. So you have to kind of pull that, but the ribbon comes through, so it's really strong and it's just a little bit different as well. There's lots of ways to adapt this. You can change it obviously, and then inside, I mean, I could get even more, but just to show you, I mean, that's 8 10x tea cakes. I reckon I could get another 4 in there. I call these nice little gifts for like maybe a work colleague to leave on their desk, or your neighbour, hairdresser, dog groomer, things like that. I think it's a really nice kind of style. You don't have to put sweets in this. It can be anything, and it doesn't have to be for Christmas either. It's straightforward to make. I've broken down all of the sections, and it's all using the smaller cardstock, so your A4 and your letter size. So let's get started. So this is the paper pad I'm using, the Christmas Me to You. Now I got this from the range and it was really cheap, but like I said, I got it, you know, over 6 months ago now. But there may be some sellers online and on eBay and places like that, so I'll link it below if I can find anywhere. But that's the ones that I'm using today. So we'll go through the pattern paper later on. The acetate's optional. This could be cardstock if you don't want to have the acetate like I've got. So I've already done half of the lid and half of the base. So first of all, for the base, you're going to want 2 pieces of 7 1/4 by 9 1/2. Now along the 9 1/2 side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 5 inches, and then rotate it so that 1/2 inch is at the bottom, and you're going to score at 1 1/4 quarters, 2 1/4, and 3 3/4. Now rotate it so that 1/2 inch tab is on the right hand side, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch down to the first score line, 4 inches down to the first score line, 5 inches down to the first score line, and then 8 1/2 down to the first score line. You want to do that twice, and that's for the base, and this is how we're going to cut it. Okay, you'll then want 2 pieces of 9 1/2 by 6 for the lid. So along the 9 1/2, you're going to score at 1/2 and 5, and then rotate it so that 1/2 inch is at the top. You're going to score at 1/2, 1 and 2 1/2, and then pop it back along the 9 1/2 inch, and you're going to score at 1 down to the first score line, 4 1/2 down to the first score line, 5 1/2 down to the first score line, and at 9 down to the first score line. Again, do that twice, and we're going to cut this one like so. You'll then want 2 pieces of acetate, that are 5 3/8 by 3 1/2, and along the 5 3/8 you're going to score at 1/2 and at 4 7/8. So you've got a 1/2 inch tab at each end, and you want to again do that twice. These 2 pieces for the other side, so we've got the acetate on 2 sides, and then we need this. This is 4 3/8 by 3 1/2. So put those together with the acetate. This is to reinforce the lid and to create the flap. So this is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. It's just over 3 1/2 actually, just go a little bit over, not too much. Along the 4 3/4 side, you want to score at 3 1/2. Okay. And then this is for the base inside to reinforce it, and that's 4 3/8 squared. Okay, so fold and burnish all of the score lines. So first of all, we'll start off with the base, so that's the largest pieces. And you're going to want to do another little bit of scoring. So just grab a ruler, and where you've got, so if you have it so you've got your 1/2 inch tab on the left hand side, you should have that largest section at the bottom with the score lines where you've just scored them up to the first score line. It's from the tops of those that we need to score across this rectangle here, the thick rectangle. So if I do this end one here, so you can see, if I catch the light, there's the top of that score line. We're going to score from there to the end here. That'll be the easiest one to show, and it'll be a much more, you'll understand it a lot more once I've cut it away as well. So you'll be able to see the shape. In fact, if I bring that one in, that would help. There we go, that's the base. So if I just flip it around, there's that there, and you can see this is what we're creating. So we will cut this section away. Again, in the middle there, you can see where I've cut them. So if I come, where I've scored them. So if I come back round again, so again, the top of this next one, so it's always, you're just working up from the top of those score lines that you only scored to that first one. And then this one's going to go across that thick rectangle piece to that middle score line, and then you're going to come back down to go to join the top of this one here. Okay, so just going up there, there's that long score line right through the middle. You're going across that to join the top of that one there, and then with this one here, you're just joining it to the other corner. You repeat this on the other piece. Okay, what you can then do is cut. I'm cutting the score line away. This large piece will form the base of the card. Now I've just gone to cut that. You don't want to cut that away. You then just want to cut across like so. I'm going to have to put a little bit of tape on the back of mine. Okay, so leave that there. Again, cut all the way up. And then that side, and then I'm just going to cut across here like so. And then with this one, just cut all the way up. Sorry, I said you're removing all of it. You're not. You're just cutting up there. And then you're just going to cut across. On this end, you're removing the 2 1/2-inch pieces there, like so. Then staying on this side here, you want to remove this rectangle at the top. Cut down between the 2 small squares, and then remove this other rectangle here, like so. Now we may end up cutting another one of these away as well, but just turn them into little tabs like so. Then come around this way and just take a little wedge, not too much, just take a little wedge off there, then cut down the first score line on that middle one there. And again, just take a little wedge, not too much, because you're going to be sticking these together. And then just a little bit off the edge there. It's just to remove some of the bulk. So do that on the other one. Now you want to fold these, all the triangle pieces. On that one. And then if you fold that one, so it's a mountain, and then the other side, so it's a mountain. That then in the middle, that score line needs to become a valley. I've made this kind of style with my other boxes before in the past, and you'll know kind of how you need to work that. But you can see then that that will go over, and that's going to form the base. Now what's going to happen with these in a minute, but I'm going to show you why we've got it, why we've still got it separate, is it's going to, where you've got, so you've got 1, 2, 3 score lines, the middle score line, you want to fold in half. We're going to add glue to stick the 2 1/2-inch pieces together, and then these are going to come back out. It took me a while to wrap my brain around this, but I knew I wanted to have a little ledge inside. Now again, this is optional. You could cut all 4 pieces the same as the lid. Basically by adding this, it gives us, I'll bring that in there, I'll show you it, I'll make it a lot easier in a minute. But can you see we've got this ledge appearing, and that is what is inside here. So these treats don't fall right into here, they sit on the top. But if you do want them to fall right in, like they would if it was the lid, then do the lid twice and you'd have that, you know, you'd have even more space. But I just wanted it to do, yeah, just wanted to do it a bit different. But before we do that bit, we need to stick them together. So once you've got your 2, you can see how we're going to attach these together, from, you know, with these little tabs here. So I'm going to grab my liquid glue. Might as well keep both these tabs, actually. I think they'd be fine to fold over, and just line them up and make sure, what I would suggest is fold it in half. I know it's probably quite delicate, This is a 220 GSM, but by the time I add the pattern paper and the acetate, it all, you know, makes it much stronger. Just make sure that it runs nice and even and parallel to the opposite end there. Fold that over, bring that one over, add your glue, pop that underneath, and then you can just stick that one perfectly over the top. By ensuring it folds flat like that, you know that when you put it into the 3D form, it's going to be a nice square shape. Now I like to do this bit next so that you can then get your hand in and apply pressure when you put the base together. If you put the base together first, it's a bit hard to stick these pieces around. So again, everybody's going to be a bit different, but I just think it's going to be a bit easier that way. Just make sure that you've folded all of these pieces in here, because it's just going to make it a bit easier in a minute when we go to stick those all together. You want to add the glue all along the top section. So you can see there, I'm just popping it. There we go. So now again, I'm just pinch each of the corners, and it just kind of pops itself into place. There we go. And then get your bone folder and really burnish each of those sides. There's going to be a little bit of bulk there now because of the double, you know, card. Okay, so now these pieces, by taking that little wedge off that I told you to do, these should quite easily all fold up now. So I just go around, just bring up each of the sides there, like so. And then I'm just going to put two opposite sides down and then stick the other two opposites just in the corners on top. But by having the underneath here open, you can go in there and really kind of add some pressure in the corners. So I'm going to use the quick grab for this bit, and then I will cover this top bit with the Collall in a minute. Now you do want to make sure that this is all at a nice right angle, because it's quite easy to stick it together slightly wonky. So just try and do two at the same time, and that will help you. I'm going to remove my ring because it is getting in the way a little bit. There we go. I've then cut this piece, which is that 4 3/8 squared, I think it was. You might need to trim it a little bit more. Yeah, that will go. Yeah, no, it does go fine, perfectly over the top. So they're just kind of tapped in place, but this is what's really going to now secure everything. I'm going to use my stronger construction glue, so this is going to make everything nice and solid, and then lay that down. And you could put pattern paper on top of this now as well if you want, but again, you've got the ability to go in there and push all that down. Okay, so now we can seal the base. So what you want to do first of all is add some glue to one half of these and just fold them both in. And if you put your finger in, you can push against one side until it's stuck. You just want to make sure you get a really nice corner. I think this would make a nice lantern as well. You could put lights inside it. There we go. Again, add the glue to one half and then just fold them both in, and then just put your finger on one side and you can push it. So I'm pushing up against this here, against my thumb. So hopefully I've broken that up enough. Like I said, like I always say with a lot of these projects, is maybe do a test run. Do yourself a little sample first with some older cardstock, and then you know, go from there. I mean, that was actually my test run, and there's a couple of little bits where I've changed it on this one, but you wouldn't notice. I'm still gonna make sure I use that one. Okay, and then the last one. Okay, and now you just need to fold one down on the sides and the base, and just add glue in between each layer. And now grab your lid. Like I said, you might want to do 4 of the lids when you see how I do this one, but it's exactly the same way. So this time we're going to score again. So I've got the top of the score line here, I've got a 1/2 inch tab on the right hand side, and you're going to score from there across and up to the corner of that rectangle. And then here I'm going to go up to the other corner, and then across that center score line and down to the top of the other one, and then again. Now we can cut these away again. So I'm going to cut up this score line here and then remove that piece, and then I'm going to cut down this section just so you've got those 2 little squares there, and remove that piece altogether. And then we're going to remove that whole middle section, so you're just cutting up again, and then just take that piece away, and then again take that piece away. You've got something like that. Go back to the little squares and just make little tabs, and then we can fold all of these. So mounting folds on all of those pieces. That middle one will go into a valley, and again a mounting fold there. Now with this one we can remove the bottom tab. So what we're going to do here is fold that over and just stick it. We want that little bit of bulk so it matches the same fold and bulk that we've got there, so the acetate will stick. So, but don't stick it just yet because we want to attach these together. I'm just going to remove on my other one here, like so. Okay, so it's going to be delicate because that's all that's holding them together, but just sit that one over the top like so, and again just to check that it is going to line up, fold that over whilst you've still got the time to wiggle it. Fold that one, add some glue on there, and then bring that one over like so. Just give that a minute to dry. Okay, so next we want to fold over these bottom sections. So you're just going to fold it all under and glue it together. It's just going to reinforce and give it the same thickness that we have here on the base so that the acetate and everything fits. So I'm just going to grab my glue again and just run it all along the outer section there, and do it all at the same time. And then just give it a good burnish once you've folded them all in. And then fold it in all in half. And that way again, you know you're going to get it, you know, it's going to be a nice square when it's together if it folds flat. And then just go in and just really burnish it. Make sure that glue's all spread out. If it's buckling at all, then just take a little bit more off on the edges so it all folds in on itself there. And like I said, this is how you can do the base, exactly the same way as this, because now we don't have that lip coming out here that we had with this one. So you can see you've got all that extra space if you want to make it bigger. Now we're going to stick all these side pieces in just the same way as you've done the base. Now you can do all this separate if you want. So we can pop the acetate either side first and then pop the paper in like so. It's entirely up to you how you do this, or you can stick the whole thing together, which is what I'm going to do, and then stick it in. So I'm just going to use some double-sided tape. I'm just going to run my tape along the two tabs on both pieces of the acetate. And then just lay that over the top there. Take the other piece of acetate, sit the other end, just lining it up to the score line. And then this one, take the next one, like so. And then just fold it over, fold that half and that half. And then you should, when you lay that one over the top, should line up perfectly. Might have to just move it a little bit. There we go. And then just give it all a nice burnish. Now what you want to do is, it's going to be best to use a thin tape, because you want the tape's got to hide between this section here. So I've got a thinner one again, and I'm going to make sure that I hug it to the very outer side here, and you want to do this on the top and the bottom. Now I'm just going to run this all the way around in one piece, just going to make it much easier to take off. Now if you want to cover this and you want to cover the whole piece with pattern paper, you want to do that now, because underneath this piece is this green card. But if you want to have a little border around it, you can, but you can also just slide this underneath, which is what I did. So I'll show you that when we get to it, but you might want to just cover this now before you stick it down. So next you want to take the backing off of both sides, and then just kind of bring it back into that square shape, like so. Okay, and then you want to fold all of the, in fact if you pinch it, you want it to be like that. That will allow you to pop it in place, and make sure you push it right down on the bottom, and then get the corners in place. That's where you want to focus. Get all of those corners where they need to be. Should fit in there perfectly, and then you can go round and stick it down, but make sure you're pushing it right so it's nice and flat, like so. And then you can go in there now with your bone folder and just burnish and make sure that's all secure. Now with this one, it's a, well, I guess it's, you just do it the same way, just kind of pinch it in and just sit it. Now, yeah, if you do it, yeah, that's fine. We haven't done the lid yet. So I've done my other one a little bit different, so just checking. So I'm just going in and making sure it runs in line. You can feel it inside. Just kind of tacking it down into those corners. So there we go. You can see it better inside. Again, if I just fold those out, just, you want it to just line up with that section here, so it's lining up with that score line inside. I mean, some of you might prefer using liquid glue here if you haven't used the acetate. And again, just go in there, just give that a good burnish. So you decide which one you want to be the front and the back. You might want to clean your acetate now as well, but you can do that, you know, when you go to put the present in. This is going to be the front for me, so I'm going to cut away this whole piece here. You might want to do this before you stick everything else down, but it is quite easy to get in there and just remove that. So I'm removing the score line as well, like so. And then these sides here, I'm going to cut in half. You don't have to, you can keep the whole piece if you want, but I don't think you need to, like so. And now this piece is going to stick over the top, and it's going to reinforce that lid, and then that will slide inside the front piece here. Again, you might have to cut a little bit off the sides, but it's best to keep it there for now, because then you can always do it later. So I'm going to add my glue all over the front, and then just lay that one down over the top. And then I'm just going to take a little bit off each side here. Okay, so that all fits nicely. So next we can decorate, and then you want to add your pattern paper first before you add the hole punches there. So for these pieces here, I've cut myself 8 pieces, 4 in one design and then 4 in another. And these measure 4 1/8 by 1 1/4. And I'll do one first and then I cut them all at the same time. Okay, next you want to mark along the long side 3/8 of an inch in. So 3/8 there, and then 3/8 there. Now mine's a non-directional print, so if yours is directional, you're going to have to do this differently for the bottom ones. But you're just going to cut across or down. But if it's a paper, then you can do them, well, at least 4 at the same time. And now you've got your pieces. So like I said, because mine's non-directional, they fit nicely up there, but then I can just turn them around to cover the bottom. So I'm going to do the same with the stripe, and then I'm going to get those all stuck down. Okay, so they're all stuck down, so I'm just going to pop this one out, and then I'm coming in 1 1/4 into the middle. So you can kind of eyeball it. It's up to you, to be honest, but I just found that to be a nice kind of position. And then I'm using my punch here. I'm just going to pop that in, line it up. And then what you can do is just pop this back in, like so, and then just draw a pencil mark. Use a pen so I can see it. There we go. Take that back out, and then just punch. And then I'm going to thread my ribbon through both of these on the lid. Pop this in and then thread them through the front. And then pull it all through, and as you pull, make sure it's all lined up. You'll be able to pull that all through like so, and then tie it in a bow. Okay, and I've just sealed the edges off there so they won't fray. I can clean the acetate and everything nearer the time, but that's how you get your closure. So next we just need to decorate the top and the sides. So you want to cut yourself, so for the top you want to cut yourself a piece of cardstock that's 3 1/4 squared, and then for the sides I'm going to just feed mine underneath, because there's, you can see where the tape hasn't gone right the way up, so I can just fit it underneath there and also along the bottom. So I'm going to cut mine so it is the full width here, which is 4 3/8, and I'm going to cut it to 2 7/8. But if you want to do it as a mat layer, so you want a frame or a border, then I would cut yourself a piece of 4 1/8 by 2 3/8. Okay, so just put my glue on the back of this piece, and then I'm just going to pop it underneath there, so it just slightly tucks under. In fact, I could probably go further up, and I can just tuck it under. And just tuck it under that one there. There we go. So like I said, it's up to you whether you want to stick it down first and then add the double-sided tape, or you can just do it like I did then. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to say, you want to cover the inside of this as well, because if you look in there, you can see your join. So you just want to cut yourself the whole size of those panels. So it'd be 4 3/8 by, well, it's about 3 1/2, just over 3 1/2. And then just stick them inside, and you can see there, I've got the stripes on the inside there. And there's the finished box. Like I said, I just need to give that a wipe, but I'll do that nearer the time when I go to put my gifts in it. Add a gift tag. You could even put a really large flower on top as well. Maybe a poinsettia flower would look quite nice on these ones, just because it's got that design there in the paper. But yeah, I think they're lovely, and like I said, you can fit a lot more if you're going to go down the Tunnix tea cake route. Definitely room for more of those in there. But change the theme. It doesn't have to be, like I said, for Christmas, or it could be a different suite, and whatever the colours are in the wrappers, you could then use those colours to decorate. I think it's wonderful. So I hope you've enjoyed this gift box from me today. I have a massive gift box playlist, so if you're new to the channel, maybe you've always thought I just do cards, because that's what I've been doing for quite a while. I do have gift boxes, 3D projects, mixed media, gift bags, got loads of those as well, so they'll all be in the playlist section, and I'll pop a few others up here that you might want to watch next. If you're new, again, like I said, or you've just enjoyed today's tutorial, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell, and that way you will get notified every time I upload something new. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.